Good evening, beautiful people. Wow, I am really happy that we are finally together again. This time is to learn about, legal terms in running a business, and we have a special guest with us. First of all, I need to apologize for the delay. You know that lawyers are very highly sought after. They're very busy people. They're busy saving the world. They're busy saving businesses. So we have to be patient with them, okay? But the good news is our facilitator is here right now. So I'm going to make this introduction very quick so we go right into the order of the day. Um, it's been 4 whole weeks. It's been 4 amazing weeks of learning, 4 amazing weeks of coming together and just sharing valuable insights back to back. Every weekend in December has been amazing. It's been insightful. It's been exciting. The facilitators that have come here every weekend, they have done themselves, like they've not even done themselves, they've done us a huge favor by taking time out of their very busy schedules to come here, talk about selling, marketing, financial literacy and management, and now legal counseling, right? And that is just to say that there's been a lot of progress. There's been a lot of consistency. A lot of you signed up for this program. You got accepted. Some people, left the program along the way due to one reason or the other. But you are here. And I would like to congratulate you because you are almost at the finish line, right? Just a little bit more. Yeah? Good. So, um, the focus for today's module will be on legal counseling. We're going to talk about contracts. We're going to talk about vendor agreements, like the nitty gritty of how to do business legally so that you don't end up in the court or you have like a court case with somebody else because, one contract somewhere was not signed or one contract somewhere was not read and understood. So that is why we're bringing a renowned lawyer, guys. We're bringing a renowned lawyer who has skin in the game to come and share, um, you know, valuable resources and valuable discussions that could help you protect your business um, from any issues that might be affecting your doing business in your country. Okay. We do have a special announcement. We're going to reserve that at the end of the module today because this involves your graduation from the program, right? Remember, in the early days of the program, we mentioned that you will write a competency test at the end of the module, and this competency test takes questions from all the 4 modules. It takes questions from marketing, selling, finance, and legal. So if you're on this call and you've not watched the videos of the previous modules, I urge you, it's very important because without that certificate, you will not graduate out of the program. So you have to go to our Telegram group. The links are there, the replay links are there. Just click on the pinned post and you're going to see all the links. Please go back and watch it so that when it's time to write the competency test, you will get the answers correctly. Yeah? So that's it. Now I would like to bring our speaker here to the stage. Hi.
Hello, Mimi.
Hi. So nice to finally have you. I know that, today has been so busy, but we really appreciate your time that you're going to spend with us today. Okay. So I'm just going to leave you to it and I'll be in the background.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon from here, Abuja, Nigeria. My name is Patience Olusi, as you all know. Let me quickly apologize for coming for this session a bit late. I was in another session, and my mentor led that session, so I couldn't excuse myself. But away from that, I can assure you all will have fun tonight and we'll learn a lot. So if you can hear and see me, I'd love to see you type in the comment section your name and your location, where are you watching from, and what business you do. This evening it will be very interactive. I want to hear from you. I want to feel your energy. Uh, Let me just check the comment section. Great. I can see a lot of people already. Yes, from the last. Oh, yes, apology accepted. Thank you, Joe Babatinde, for that. Suleiman from Oyo, Ekason, Abiyakurole, Anambra, Okar. Great. All right. So great to see you all. So this evening we'll be talking about legal counseling. And as an SME, what should you do to ensure that you're safe from legal problems? Hi from Tanzania, I can see you. So I want to ask, how many of us have registered our businesses? Your business name, have you registered it? I want to see in the comment section, registered. Have you registered your business name? Just type registered in the comment section. Um, one major problem we have with SMEs is the fact that we are not able to separate ourselves from our businesses. So we see ourselves as our business, and that's why most of us run into a lot of troubles. Okay, Princess Chinedu said she hasn't. C. Peter said registered. Ojo registered. Great. So the first and most important thing is to separate your person from your business. That way, people can take you serious. People can have you know, the mind to do business with you. But if you're still operating your business as Patience Olusuye, trust me, people will have some biased mind to run business with you. So I know we have different people from different countries. Here in Nigeria, we have a body that is in charge of registering businesses, and it's the Corporate Affairs Commission. At Corporate Affairs Commission, you can register your business either as a business name or as a limited liability, or probably you want to run an NGO. So if you want to run a non-profitable organization, you register it under the Part C of CAMA. So CAMA is the law that regulates the affairs of the Corporate Affairs Commission here in Nigeria. So I'd love to hear from you, those of you in other countries, which body regulates registration of companies in your own country. Um, I saw someone from Tanzania. I'd love to know what organization regulates registration of businesses. So if you've not registered your business, I'd love you to take a step to register your business. One thing that does for you is it gives you a legal entity. It gives people the confidence to have and run business with you. Aside that, it also helps you to ensure that people take you seriously. How many of you here you offer services, but because you don't have a legal entity, people just take you for granted. They just say, ah, but you're my sister. Just do this for me for free. But if you have your business registered and you have it well structured, then definitely you will be seen as a serious person who is ready to run businesses. So that's just an intro. I know today we're focused on contracts, but a house that is built on a shaky foundation will not stand. So if you don't even have a registered business, you can't even start talking about contracts because I don't want to register. I don't want to do any enter any contract with you if you don't even have a legal entity. Okay, great. Daniel Elsewhere from Abuja. Great to see you. So, if you're together with me and you're ready to take actions after this evening counseling session, I'd love you to type action in the comment section. Okay, I registered my business in Ethiopia. Okay, great, Mohammed Ishmael. Thank you for that. So, let's talk about contracts. My mentor, Dr. Ugochukwu Omego, will always say, what you cannot define will definitely overwhelm you. So let's define contract. So contract is an agreement between parties that outlines the terms and conditions of activities between two parties. Legally speaking, contract is an agreement between parties that creates mutual obligations that are enforceable by law. Legally speaking, a contract is an agreement between parties that creates mutual obligations that are enforceable by law. Now, I want to ask you a question. If you have a dispute between, let's say, yourself and your mother, can you sue her in court? I want to see your responses. If there's a dispute between yourself and your mom, will you take her to court? Will you sue her in court? I can see the actions are coming in. Now, the second part of this question will be, if you supplied a person a product and then the person did not pay you for the product supplied, will you be willing to sue the person in court? Now, I can see a lot of you are being emotional. No, I can't sue my mother. I can't sue my mother. I know, right? So the second part, will you sue the person? Okay, Princess Chinedu said it depends on the issue. Okay, now. Okay, great. So for you to be able to enforce your rights in a court of law, there must be a valid contract. There must be a valid contract. So let's look at contracts. In a layman, I mean, a general person can just say, oh, contract can be oral, it can be written. Truth. I mean, in churches, we take oaths, we take vows, and they're just mere words of exchange. I promise to be your wife in good health, in bad health, and all those things we say in church. It's just verbal, and it's really binding on the parties. Trust me, that's a contract. And of course, contract can also be written. So let's look at the elements that makes a contract enforceable. Remember, in my definition, I had said that a contract is an agreement between parties that creates mutual obligations that are enforceable by law. So, for a contract to be enforceable, there are some elements that such contracts must have. And the first is mutual consent. Mutual consent, meaning the parties involved must mutually agree that we want to enter into a contract. So both of you must be at the same level. There must be a kind of relationship between the two parties that warrants you to have a contract. The second element is there must be a valid offer and acceptance. There must be a valid offer and acceptance. Meaning, Yola tells Ngene, I want to supply you this pen at the rate of $20. And Ngene says, yes, I agree that you should supply me this pen at the rate of $20. So the offer and acceptance must be what? Valid. So you might want to ask me, so what makes an offer and an acceptance not valid? If the conditions are not at idem, you pardon my legal jargons, right? So if, for instance, Hajanaku had said, you know what, I will supply this pen at $20. And then Ngene said, no, I can only buy this pen from you at $15. You see, there is not The offer has not been fully accepted. So it is not valid because it is not on the same page. Great. So the third element that makes a contract enforceable is consideration. I already mentioned that already. Consideration. There must be an amount that will be exchanged for the services, for the product, or for the value to be offered and received. So there must be a consideration. And the last but not the least is terms and conditions. Terms and conditions. Now, these are other things you want to look at. For instance, you want to look at how long will this contract exist? You want to look at how will this contract be terminated? You want to look at if anyone defaults, what should happen? You want to look at so many other things. So these are the things that are in the terms and condition. So in summary, I said a contract is an agreement between parties that creates mutual obligations that are enforceable by law. And then for a contract to be enforceable at law, there are some elements that must be in that contract. And number one, I said there must be a mutual consent. Number two, I said there must be a valid offer and acceptance. I said there must be a consideration, and then there are terms and condition. If you're gaining value so far, I'd love to see value in the comment section. And please, if you have any question at any time, just drop it in the comment section and I will take it up with you guys. It's so fun having all of you here, and I'm so excited about this evening. So that's just introduction about contracts. Great, thank you, Peter. So I'd love you to tell me one new thing you've learned about contracts that you didn't know before now in the comment section. From everything I've said about the definition, what is that new thing that resonates with you? Or what's that new thing you've just learned about contract? Now, the first and most important aspect I'm asked to speak about this evening is the importance of contracts to SMEs. Importance of contracts to SMEs. Why should we enter a contract? Why should we, have a contract in the first place? The first thing is contract serves as a record of rights, responsibility, and obligations. Contract serves as a record of rights, responsibilities, and obligations. That's number one importance of a contract. So in a contract, you're able to define what are my rights, what are my responsibilities and obligations. My right is that you must supply me this pen. My responsibility is to receive this pen and pay you the value or the price for this pen. And then other obligations that I'm also expected to carry out as a result of the contract. So if you don't have a contract, sometimes you might not be able to define your rights, your responsibilities, and obligations. And as such, you get cheated by people you offer services or products to. The second reason or the second importance of a contract is that contract makes private promises legally enforceable. Contract makes private promises legally enforceable. You know, the reason you cannot see your mother is because the private promises you've made between yourselves have not been reduced to a contract to make it enforceable. So you just have promises, promises, and promises. And most of us SMEs, we go into businesses and have just gentlemen agreements, promises. Okay, you're my friend. I'll supply you this, I'll supply you that, and then you pay me at so time, not reduced to writing, and then you have to use so much money to recover your money. These are the issues with SMEs. So once you have a contract, it reduces your private promises to something that is legally enforceable. The third reason why you should have a contract or importance of having a contract is that contracts formalize a relationship between parties. Once you have a contract, you know that your relationship is formal. So, as such, everybody will be careful not to breach that contract. Everybody will be willing to execute their own part of the contract. The first reason is that contract ensures you get paid. So, at this point, I want to ask you, how many of you have rendered services or have delivered products to people and they refuse to pay you? I want to say it in comment section. Share your experiences with me. Have you ever offered services and products to people and they refuse to pay you? And sometimes you're not able to do anything about it. Or sometimes they pay you, but they don't pay you in full. And all you can just do is just cry and cry and cry, and nothing changes. Another reason why you should have contracts is because it prevents disputes between parties. Contract helps you to prevent disputes between parties. You might ask, how? Because you have reduced your agreements into writing. Nobody can argue it anymore because it's written. We can see it. Someone will always say that an ink on a paper is better than the sharpest memory. So whatever you reduce on pen and paper, it helps you to, say, what, but we wrote this down. Compared to if it's just in your mind. And then the person will tell you, but we agreed for $20. You say, no, it was $5. You say, no, but do you remember I even said this, I said that, and this and this. You didn't reduce it to writing so. But where it's written down, you can dispute what is already written and signed. That is the importance. Then another importance of having a contract is that it guarantees confidentiality. Contracts guarantees confidentiality. How many of you have given your trade secrets to your employees and then they turn around to use your trade secret in their own to their own benefits? Let's say you produce water and then okay, so Envoy did not pay me for this advert. Okay, so you produce water and then you inform your employees the process of producing this water. You give them the secret of how you get your clients and all of that, and then suddenly your employee just grow wings because they have your trade secret, and then they just go ahead, start the same business you're doing, and then even take away your clients along with them and all of that. But when you have a contract, it is written an NDA, non-disclosure agreements. We have contracts where as part of the terms and condition, it is written that, what, even when you leave this job or when you leave this business, you cannot go elsewhere to do a similar business until after 5 years or after 10 years or after 30 years. So once you have a contract, it guarantees confidentiality. So someone knows that this information I have, I cannot say it to someone else. I cannot give it to anyone else. I can only use it for the purpose of this business, and that is it. Now, the last but not the least reason why that I want to give you for the importance of having a contract is that it enables formal collaborations between teams. It enables formal collaborations between teams. Trust me, when you have a contract, people are more committed to delivered results. People understand that, oh, this is my responsibility, this is my own part of the bargain, and I have to do it, I have to execute it, I have to get it done. Great. So we've looked at the definition of contracts, we've looked at elements of contracts, and then we've looked at the importance of contracts. So let's interact. I just want to check your comment sections and see what's happening so far. Okay, so Mohammed Ishmael said, who decides which conditions should be included in a contract or an agreement? Who decides? Both parties decides the terms and condition. For instance, let's say you want to supply this pen, so you tell the person, "This pen, I want you to supply so quantity and make sure it's this quality, and make sure you deliver it at so time. And if I need to add more or make more order, I promise to reach out to you." So both of you look at the kind of business that you want to do, and then look at what are the things that will be involved in this business, and you come to an agreement that, okay, this should be done this way, that should be done this way. So both parties mutually agree on the terms and conditions in a contract. So let me know if that answers your question rather. Okay, there must be. Okay, these are lessons learned so far. Oh no, sorry about that. Someone just said I experienced it yesterday. Makes sorry about that. So well, thank God for this privilege of the SME Growth Lab. It is here to help you, remedy your errors and ensure that you don't make them in the nearest future. I have several times and they didn't pay me. You see, I can imagine all of that. Great. So thank you so much for being with me so far. So let's go to the second aspect of our lessons this evening. It is, what kind of contrast should you have for employees? What kind of contrast should you have for employees? So how many of us have employees? I want to see if you have an employee, please type it in the comment section. Just type employee. If you have, even if it's just one or two, just type employee. And then the next thing I also want to ask is how many of us have contracts for our employees? Okay, so someone asks, Patience, may you elaborate more on NDAs? Okay, so non-disclosure agreements, agreements you enter into, most especially where you want to offer services that involves intellectual properties. So it involves someone thinking, it involves someone's idea, it involves someone's knowledge. You understand that will be shared, and because you know that there is a possibility that someone might take advantage of those ideas and then use it for their own benefit, you enter an NDA that, you know what, this idea, you cannot share it elsewhere, you cannot use it elsewhere, and all of that. So mostly you see NDAs between IT companies. For instance, if I'm engaging someone to build an app for me, I will have to enter an NDA that, you know what, this idea is solely mine, and then you cannot use this to help another person or create another thing for another person, and you can't even share this idea with another person, and all of that. So that's the essence of NDAs. Let me know, Limbani, if that answers your question, and if it's not enough, come behind the scene after this class, and then I can give you more ideas or even show you a practical example of what an NDA looks like. Okay, great. All right. Okay, I can see a lot of you have employees. Great. So I want to ask, how many of you have contracts for your employees? How many of you do have contracts for your employees? Okay, is there a particular business from others that must have contracts? Well, if you ask me, every business owner should have a contract with the employees or with the vendors or with any other person that you do business with or you do businesses. Okay, Peter, it's just an example. It's not only IT companies that uses NDAs. That's just an example to make you understand what I'm saying. A lot of companies use uh, NDAs. Yeah. In fact, even between employers and employee, you can have an NDA. Like a lot of situations where you can actually use NDA. Okay, so most of you don't have contracts for your staff, and that's why your staff can wake up and tell you, "Ma, I'm not coming to work tomorrow. I am done working for you, and there's nothing you can do about it." These are the little issues that SMEs face every now and then. Because you've not done something legally binding, they can just wake up and do anything. They can just withdraw from your services, withdraw from your employment. I mean, someone can just decide not to come to work, and then because there's nothing binding, there's nothing you can do. So most of us still put ourselves in our businesses. We don't create a legal entity different from our individual persons. If you have an employee, even if you pay them $1, you should have a contract with such employee because you're exposing your trade secrets to them. They're attending to your customers on your behalf. They're receiving probably money on your behalf. They're doing so many things for you. So what happens if anything goes wrong? I'm sure some of you have had situations where your employees steal funds from your businesses and they get away with it. Some of you have instances where your employees misbehave to your top clients and you don't have a disciplinary measure to checkmate them. And then you just lose clients. And so this is the time for you to ensure that everything you're learning here, you go back home and put them into practice. Knowledge is only useful when you put it into practice and get a better result from what you used to be. Great. Someone asks, are invoices and delivery notes contracts? Well, they're kind of contracts because there are some invoices that have some terms and conditions. For instance, they'll tell you, oh, after delivery, you cannot return products, or they tell you after service, you can return. There are some small, but it's not really um, a very strong contract because it doesn't have all the elements of a contract. Great. So let's look at what are the kind of contracts you can actually have for your employees. But before I go into that, I want you to tell me in the comment section what you've learned so far. I'll just give a 2 minute for that. Just tell me in summary what you've learned so far.
Okay, so where are the comments, right? What have you learned so far? What has been your thoughts and everything that Patience has talked about? Like, I actually like the style of teaching that Patience has introduced. It is calm, it is not too fast, it is very reflective. Like, you can literally understand from her point of view, as she's a lawyer and she has seen several cases of businesses being shut down because of something as minute as a contract. Yes, employees take business owners to court, business owners take employees to court, vendors take businesses to court, businesses take vendors to court because there was no contract that was defined between both parties. Okay, so let me know what you've learned so far. If you have any questions, I can always, reserve them for patients, right? Um, okay, I can see the questions. I'm just taking a note of them. Someone says I don't have contracts for employees. Well, you should have, okay? No matter how their position, like no matter the position of the employee in your company, right? You should have a contract. It might not be like a 30-page long contract. It can just be something between 1 to 2 pages, just the basics, right? And you have them to sign, right? In that contract, you can list out the duties of that person and then you ask the person to sign. Say, hey, these are the duties that I'm expecting you to perform at this company. Sign to accept that this is what you're going to do in the company. So when there is any conflict and the employee is not performing the duties that have been outlined in that contract, then you have every right to take it up and escalate it. Okay.
Yes, great. All right, I can see a lot of questions so far. Okay, so let me just quickly attend to your questions before I go ahead. Okay, someone said, are offer letters with conditions considered as a contract? Yes, yes. As long as you've stated, you say so. In answering your question, I want you to go back to the elements of an enforceable contract. Okay, ensure that there's a mutual consent. Ensure that there's a valid offer and acceptance. There are considerations, and then there are other terms and conditions that makes it enforceable. So yes, letter offer letters, yes, can be considered as contract if they possess all the elements of a valid contract that are definitely enforceable in court. Okay, what happens when your employee defaults? I guess that's the next question. Yeah, from Gigi Sure. What happens when your employee defaults? It depends. If you have a valid contract and then the employee defaults, one of the terms you would have written in that contract is what happens when there is a dispute. You can introduce alternative dispute resolution. You can give the option of arbitration. You can also give the option of going to court and any other option. It can even be negotiation. Okay. So you have to introduce a clause that states what happens where someone defaults. So we can say, if for instance, you're supposed to supply this pen at so date and you don't supply it at so date, I can just cancel the contract or I can reduce the sum payable to you. So you have to specify those things as part of your terms and condition. Okay. So the next one is knowledge is only effective when you put it into action. Absolutely. I agree with you, Habiba. Thank you for that. Are verbal contracts legally enforceable and binding? Okay, so in Nigeria here, we've had cases where someone comes to court and say, you know what, we entered this agreement verbally and we agree it's going to be binding and all of that and all of that. And trust me, some of those gentlemen agreements are put to test because the other party might dispute it. And as long as you cannot prove that both of you agree to do this, you cannot show that, say, there was a consideration, you cannot show that, say, we agree that these are the other conditions that should bind us, and the other party also agrees with you. Trust me, it will be difficult or if not impossible to enforce verbal contracts. And that's why it's advisable that you put your contracts on pen and paper. Great. That's from Chris Aze. Okay. Thank you, Joe Babalola, for that compliment. I appreciate. A contract for contracts to be enforceable, there must be mutual consent. Absolutely, Habiba. I have learned to have an agreement with employees, customers, suppliers to enforce standard conditions. Absolutely, Peter. Okay, I guess I don't have any other question. Okay. Adiza Peter said, "What is your position on jobs with terms that makes the employee sign a bond?" Now you're asking for my own personal opinion. One thing I will advise, so I will not tell you what my opinion is. Rather, I will advise that before you take up a job or before you do anything that has bond, you should be sure you want to do that. You should be sure you're clear with every terms and condition in it, and be certain that it will not in any way hurt or jeopardize you as a person. So that would be my advice instead of my opinion. Okay. So, how do you know which of your employees sold the company's secret sauce? So, let me ask you, Coca Cola have been in existence for so many years. And of course, they have the special trade secrets, the special ingredients that only certain class of persons know. And so they know. So it is your duty as an employer to know who you're giving your trade secrets to. If the person, I mean, I have a friend that owns a business and she has different ingredients that she puts together to create her products. What she did is, so she broke down these trade secrets to different levels. So a manager has a particular secret, and then there's the lower cadre of an employee that has a particular secret. And all of them do not use it at the same time or at the same level. So, as a business owner, you need to also be very, very diligent in sharing your trade secrets so that when there's an issue, you're able to easily pick out the defaulting party. I hope that answers your questions, Timaya fans. Okay, great. So our time is fast spent. Let me just hurry up. So let's go to contracts for employees. What are the kind of contracts you can have for employees? So I'm going to look at this from from the perspectives of the kind of engagement you have with your employee. So that should determine the kind of contract you have. So you can have a full time, like if you have a full time employee, you should look at having a contract that is a contract that is well defined contract. So you can have a full time contract for a full time employee, and then you can also have like a part time contract. You can have a casual contract. You can have a fixed term contract. You can even have contract for your trainees. So, depending on the level of engagement of your employee, you should consider what contract is appropriate for that employee. So, if you have a full time employee, you should look at a contract that will be so binding that you know that this person is here for a very long time, at least a minimum of 1 to 2 years before if the person decides to go away and all of that. So, contracts for employees is actually determined by the kind of employment the person is involved. Okay, so full time, part time, casual, fixed term. Like for instance, okay, you're only serving me for 2 months, so we just have a 2 month contract, and then we spell out the terms and condition, and that is it basically, and everybody goes their way. Okay, so that's on the kind of contracts or the different kind of contracts. And of course, it's not limited to this. There's also another angle to it also. So you can also look at the different classes of contracts. For instance, I'd mentioned NDA as an example of of a kind of contract you can actually do for certain people. You can have offer letters that have contracts. You can have contract of employment, like different kinds, depending on the kind of employment the person is involved in with you. I hope that's very, very clear. So please, I want to advise every one of you that if, okay, that if you don't have a contract with your employees, it is time for you to repent and ensure you do that. Okay. Then let's look at the third part of this legal counseling module, and that is contracts for vendors. Contracts for vendors. So, who are vendors? Okay, or what kind of contracts are we talking about when vendors are mentioned? These are business contracts between two parties that covers the exchange of goods and services in return for compensation. Okay, so vendors are people who offers you certain services, and then you agree, okay, you supply this, you do that, and then I do this and all of that. Okay. And the purpose of this contract is to allow all parties involved to understand what is expected in terms of deliverables, payments, when products will be exchanged, and when goods and services will be delivered, and consequences of non-delivery and all of that. So those are the things you consider when you're entering contracts with your vendors. Okay. Then you want to look at the types of vendors contracts that we have. We have fixed price contracts, fixed price contracts. So if for instance you and your vendor agrees at a fixed price, and then you will want to enter that because it's already well defined. You already have a product, you have how much it will cost for the vendor to deliver. And so regardless of whether there's a market fluctuation or anything, the price is already fixed. And then you don't even want to consider other factors or costs or anything that might be involved. But let me add this is only advisable in situations or in businesses that have low risks. Please don't enter a fixed price contract where the risk is high, where inflation can affect what you're doing, or where exchange rate, or where there are other circumstances that can impact the consideration for that contract. Okay. Then another one you want to consider is time and material contracts. Okay, you just fix a time, and then just a moment, plus. Okay, so you just fix the time, and then the kind of contract you want to agree. Like, okay, so we agree that this also time and this also time you're supplying this material, and then you're giving me this. I agree to buy this, and you agree to supply this, and at this sort time you will supply this product and I will receive it, and then I'll pay you at this moment, and that is that. There's no too much grammar about this. In fact, this one is specifically for services or products that are just within 1 hour or so, just for you to deliver very fast, very, very quick. And then you can also have indefinite deliverable contracts also. This is where you agree to a flexible contract with undefined quantities of products. So, for instance, I say, okay, I need to produce this particular product, and I don't know the quantity of raw material I will need to be able to, conclude my production. And so, let's just leave it open as to the quantities of products to be delivered. Or in terms of services, I say, okay, I want you to help me train my employees to be better, but I don't know how long it will take them to really gain sufficient knowledge to improve their services. So let's leave it maybe open and see how the progress of this training helps them to be better and all of that. Okay, great. So those are the kind of contracts you can have. You can also have distribution agreement contracts where you have a distributor that supplies this and all of that. So there are different kind of agreements you can actually enter with your vendor. And the best person to advise you on the kind of contracts to go into is your lawyer. Okay, is your lawyer. So that's that on types of contracts you can enter into with your vendors. So the last part of the session is knowing your employment and labor law. See, most of us, we just do business blindly. We don't even know what law governs, employment of staff. We don't even know what law governs employees compensation. You don't even know, like, there's so many things, laws. And sometimes you just find yourself, you're caught up by this law because you're not aware. And in law, we says that ignorance is not an excuse. So the fact that you don't know does not exempt you from the liability of what happens as a result of your ignorance. So trust me, if you're doing businesses anywhere, you should know the laws that regulate your kind of business and even the employment of staff and all of that. It's very important. So for people uh, in Nigeria, we have our Labor Act, which regulates labor law, basically. Then we also have Employees Compensation Act. And then the last is we have this NSITF Act as well. And the interesting part is in Nigeria, we even have a court that is dedicated to settle disputes between employees and employer. And it is called NIC, that's National Industrial Court. That's where disputes that relate to employment and all of that are taken. So I hope that I've been able to add value to you tonight. And it's so fun having this session with you all. Um, I want you to pick the knowledge you've learned today and put it to practice. If there's anything you're failing at, I want you to go and remedy it so that after now you'll be happy that you were part of the session. So, thank you very much for being with me and for being so engaging. I love all of you. And let me just take one or two questions. Thank you very much. Okay, please, I want to know if it is necessary for every contract to be approved by a lawyer. So when you use the word approved, I have an issue with that. Okay. So it is advisable that you have a lawyer draft your contract for you. I'll give you a scenario that happened to a friend of mine recently. She's a traveling agent, so she helps people to process visa and they travel out of Nigeria. And then sometimes they promise to get you a job and all of that. So, and sometimes she has third parties that bring clients to her. And sometimes these third parties overpromise these clients, and a scenario happened recently. The processed visa for some guys. They traveled out of Nigeria, got to their destination. They had promised them to get a job 2 weeks upon entering that country. And 2 weeks later, this guy didn't get a job. 2 months later, they didn't get a job. And then they had to come back to Nigeria. And then they wanted to just, drag my friend on social media and then embarrass her and all of that. And I asked her, was there a contract between you and the third party that brought this client to you, and also even between yourself and these parties? And she said no. I said, you see, so you've exposed yourself to some risks, but we're able to use some laws and all of that, and we wriggled them out of that situations, and they were not embarrassed. Right now I had to help her to draw up contract between herself and third parties who bring clients to her, contract between herself and even the persons that she will be servicing and all of that. So it's not necessary in quotes that a lawyer approves your contract, but trust me, if it's written by a lawyer, you're safer. I hope that answers your questions, Francisca. Okay, great. So, a moment for questions. I guess I've attended to most of your questions. What is your position on jobs returns? I've answered that already. I've answered that earlier on. How do you know which of your employees? I've answered that as well. Yes. Okay, someone said, I registered my business name sometimes 2019, and I was not aware that I need to pay annual fees. Just recently, a friend sent me a link for me to check my status. I saw inactive. Please, what can I do? Okay, yeah. So at the moment in Nigeria, I know this question is coming from someone in Nigeria. So the Corporate Affairs Commission um, Because most people, you just register your business names, you register your limited liabilities, and you're not aware that you're supposed to pay an annual fees to the Corporate Affairs Commission. Is a fixed rate actually, and it's clearly provided for. But most lawyers don't advise business owners that yearly, especially before the 30th of every year, you should pay your annual returns. And there are fees. I mean, there are penalties for non-payment actually. So the CSE realized that recently so many companies have decided not to pay. So what they did was to throw them into an inactive status to notify them of their failure to pay annual fees. So what you need to do is get a lawyer to help you file your annual fees. The lawyer will help you to check from 2019. If you haven't paid, actually there's a window period from the time of registration to the first time you should pay the annual fees. Okay. So the lawyer will help you check how many years you've defaulted and then tell you how much you have to pay with the penalties. And then once you do that and it's properly filed on the CSE portal, your business name will be back to being active. And that is what I can also do for you. So you might want to chat me after the session. That's for you, second signatures. So to wrap up this class, I guess we're done. I'm sure you all have gained value. And the interesting thing, I'll be with you tomorrow again. So you can come with your questions tomorrow and we'll take it up together. Okay, so to have access to me or to ask me your questions, you can just go to my Instagram and then followed me on my personal Instagram, Patience Olusui, just like you can see on my name, and drop an inbox for me. I also want to just drop this final advice. Please, it is better to have a lawyer when you don't have a need for it than wait till you have a problem before you look for a lawyer. Okay? A lawyer will help you to prevent some issues before they happen than wait for them to happen and look for remedy. So until I see you guys tomorrow, I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much, Patience. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you to everyone that has engaged, asked questions. Like, I think, I can call myself a mini lawyer now. This has been one interesting topic, contracts, agreements, and just the legal element of running your business the right way in your country. So you can connect with patients. I urge you to do that because she is, someone that also works in the space of, providing legal support to SMEs and small businesses across Africa. So take this down or just go ahead and search right now. Her Instagram handle is Patience Ulusui, right? So I'm just going to type that into the comments so that you can go ahead and connect with her on Instagram. Okay. And if you need help with anything that is, you know, legally applicable, you can talk to patients and she can provide you with the necessary services and, the cost for it. But just like she said, if you're running a business that does not have legal backing or it is not registered or you have employees that there are no contracts that are binding them. They can just wake up one morning and disappear. Or wake up one morning and, sell the secret of your business to another competitor. You always need to have those contracts so that everything is done the right way. Everything is done professionally. Okay. So I will see everyone tomorrow. Patience is going to come back tomorrow to take the second part of the module. So I know that you enjoyed today. I'm pretty sure tomorrow will be a lot better. So come with your questions, come with your comments. A lot of it are running small businesses. You might have one or two comments that might not have come to your mind right now, and you know you might think about it later, right? So bring it tomorrow, and Patience will address it. And like I said earlier in the day, there's going to be a competency test. This is the final module for the program. This is the final module for the program. And after this module, we're done. We'll have some time to take the competency test and then we'll come back for a brief graduation ceremony, but more details on that will be communicated. So if you've not had the time to go through the other modules, the links are on the Telegram group. So you should go there and watch the videos, take notes, take lessons, and I'm pretty sure when it's time to write the competency test, you're going to score very high. Okay, so thank you very much, and thank you, patience. I'm going to see everyone tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Bye bye.